research, facts on the ground. Please see the report, Silencing Journalism and Human Rights in Kashmir. And we are talking of Indian occupied Kashmir, which has been annexed by India on 5th of August 2019 and also partitioned illegally and without recourse to law. Now, what is this special about this report? And I'd like to just mention some of the highlights. It is based on 2,000 testimonies. They met 2,000 different people. They got their written and oral testimonies in the record. And they have documented 450 cases of torture in Indian occupied Kashmir, 1,500 cases of pellet gun victims. And most of the pellet gun victims are children. And pellet gun means the pellet gun is used to hunt animals. And that is used against the innocent children, the girls, the boys, men and women of Indian occupied Kashmir. There are 100 cases of enforced disappearances and 30 cases of sexual violence. And on top of that, when we are talking about this report, as we speak, last week, 2.7 million people who were non-Kashmiris belonging to different parts of India who are currently in occupied Kashmir, whether they are military personnel, bureaucracy and others, including 100,000 parachuriks of the RSS. Parachuriks are like the brown shirts of the Nazi party. They are fascists and they are the ideological, they were there. They have been given the right to vote in Indian occupied Kashmir. And 4 million new domiciles have already been issued. The people can stay there. So the voters list has been changed. Domiciles have been issued to outsiders. So basically what we are seeing is a very dangerous and insidious design to transform and change the demographic balance of Indian occupied Kashmir and make the Muslims, who are the majority, into a minority. Similar to what Israel is doing in occupied Palestine and Gaza and West Bank. Occupied Kashmir also has seen since 5th August 2019 the longest lockdown in history, internet lockdown, not COVID lockdown, 213 days. And among the targets of what the human rights report has mentioned, and also I'd like to mention economically, according to the Washington Post, $5.3 billion of the Kashmiri economy has been wasted or squandered. 500,000 Kashmiris have lost their jobs because of what India has done after 5th of August 2019. And one of the main targets of Indian occupation is the heroic human rights defender Khurram Parvez. Khurram Parvez, as you know, is an icon. He has been the head of this Jammu and Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society and also the chair of the Asian Federation Against Involuntary Disappearances. And his only crime has been to speak the truth. And on that basis, he has been charged with terrorism when he's a peaceful activist for rights of his people. And he has been charged by this organization called the NIA, National Investigation Agency, which is the lead organization. This is like the Indian Gestapo. In Nazi Germany, there was the Gestapo, which used to do this work. This is the Indian version of the Gestapo in the 21st century, which is doing capturing people, torturing people, jailing people, killing people. And this is supposed to be doing counter-terrorism, but what they're doing is one-point agenda to suppress, to brutalize, and to eliminate any voices of resistance, people who speak the truth. So in this context, I think it's very important to understand that what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir is something unique, because normally in other areas we see there is targets are either men or women or children or separately. But this is the only warfare I can see. There are two things unique. Children, women and men are being affected. Rape is being used as a weapon of war. Children are being targeted pellet guns, and people are being kidnapped, and men also are punished. And the highest soldier to civilian ratio in modern warfare, 900,000 Indian occupied people, Indian occupation forces, whether army, paramilitary, police, NIA. So what is happening in Kashmir is a crime against humanity. We all must speak up on that. I in the Pakistan Parliament initiated 2 resolutions, including a very important one about political prisoners, including Mishal's husband Mishal Malik Sahab, and Asiya Andrabi Sahiba, and Qasim Fakhtu Sahab, and also on Khurram Parvez Sahab. And I would like to conclude with a quotation by an Indian writer about what is happening in India today. Arundhati Roy wrote in the New York Times, an architecture of fascism is being erected in India. And today's India, RSS is the state. It was published on 15th of August in the New York Times. The way forward, we must speak up. Maybe we should try to form an international tribunal on Indian war crimes, on Indian crimes against humanity, led by Dr. Mahathir or some such person. There used to be a tribunal on Vietnam by Bertrand Russell on the same platform. And more importantly, if Gambia, a small country of the OIC, can go to court, to the international court against Myanmar on Rohingya, why can't some activists go to the International Court of Justice on the issue of Kashmir and take RSS to court? Because RSS is a fascist organization, and they're doing ethnic cleansing. They are targeting the Kashmiri Muslims. And I would also like to conclude with a quote by an American, Dr. Gregory Stanton, on 12th of January, 2022. Gregory Stanton is the president of the Genocide Watch in America. And he said, and I quote, "In India today, we see the makings of a genocide in Kashmir and Assam." So these are Western sources, and the time has come to speak up, to wake up, and to take the bull by the horns and expose these crimes being committed, Indian state terrorism by the regime in Delhi and by especially the RSS. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I commend again the report that has been issued. Please see this report. Please, dekh lein. This is a very powerful report. Yes, okay. And I would request all of us to stand with this report and launch the report formally.
मकबूजा कश्मीर में इंसानी हकूक की पामाली और भारतीय मीडिया की मुजरिमाना खामोशी। सेनेटर मुशाहिद हुसैन सैयद की कश्मीर लॉयर्स फोरम बरतानिया की हमरा न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस आप मुलाहिजा कर रहे थे। उसमें उनका कहना था कि मकबूजा कश्मीर में इंसानी हकूक की संगीन खिलाफ वर्जियाँ जारी हैं, और ये रिपोर्ट जो है ये रिपोर्ट भारतीय मजालिम को बेनकाब करती है। सफाकाना भारतीय मजालिम से
documented in London, and they've exposed the ugly face of India. And as the Economist said, intolerant India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I request...
ये रिपोर्ट भारत के बदसूरत चेहरे को बेनकाब करती है, ऐसा कहना था सेनेटर मुशाहिद हुसैन सैयद का, जो कि कश्मीर लॉयर्स फोरम बरतानिया के हमरा न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे थे। उनका ये कहना था कि मकबूजा कश्मीर में लोगों पर जानवरों से भी ज्यादा बदतर सलूक किया जा रहा है। सफाकाना भारतीय मजालिम से बच्चे और औरतें भी महफूज नहीं हैं। ये लोग जुल्म के पहाड़ तोड़ रहे हैं। अब वक्त आ गया है कि भारत को उसकी पॉलिसी से बाज रखने के लिए इकदाम किए जाएं और लोगों के सामने उसका बदसूरत चेहरा बेनकाब किया जाए। سینیٹر مشاہد حسین سید کشمیر لائرز فورم کے برطانیہ کے ہمراہ نیوز کانفرنس کر رہے تھے اور مقبوضہ کشمیر میں انسانی حقوق کی پامالی اور اس پر بھارتی میڈیا کی مجرمانہ خاموشی کے عنوان سے سیمینار کا انعقاد کیا گیا، جس میں وہ اپنا اظہار خیال کر رہے تھے۔ ان کا یہ کہنا تھا کہ مقبوضہ کشمیر میں اس وقت سنگین انسانی حقوق کی خلاف ورزیاں کی جا رہی ہیں۔ یہ رپورٹ جو انہوں نے دکھائی بھی این پہ، ان کا کہنا تھا کہ یہ بھارتی مظالم کو بے نقاب کرتی ہے۔ صفاقانہ بھارتی مظالم سے بچے اور عورتیں بھی محفوظ نہیں ہیں۔ مقبوضہ کشمیر میں وہاں کے لوگوں پر جانوروں سے بھی زیادہ بدتر سلوک کیا جا رہا ہے، مظالم کے پہاڑ توڑے جا رہے ہیں، لوگوں کو اغوا کیا جا رہا ہے۔
مشاہد حسین صاحب نے ان پہ بڑی اہم گفتگو کی اور تمام مقاصد پہ بات کی ہے، لیکن میں چونکہ بیسیکلی جموں کشمیر کا مسئلہ ایک پولیٹیکل مسئلہ ہے، ہیومن رائٹس کا مسئلہ بھی اس کا ایک اہم جز ہے، لیکن بنیادی طور پہ کشمیر کا مسئلہ ایک پولیٹیکل ایشو ہے۔ ہمارے ساتھ جو آج تک ہوا ہے، جس میں اس میں بھی اور اس سے پہلے بھی رپورٹس آئے ہیں، اور سب سے بڑا رپورٹ جو ایمنسٹی انٹرنیشنل نے جاری کیا 2017 اور 2019 میں، وہ اقوام متحدہ کی قراردادوں کے پاس ایک بہت بڑا ڈاکومنٹ کشمیر کی تحریک کے حوالے سے ہے، جس میں تمام چیزوں کا احاطہ کیا گیا ہے کہ ہندوستان کشمیر میں کر کیا رہا ہے۔ آج جن لوگوں کی بات یہاں پہ کی گئی ہے، یہ سول سوسائٹی کے لوگ ہیں، یہ ہیومن رائٹس ایکٹیوسٹ ہیں، یہ اخبار نویس ہے، یہ کوئی فوٹوگرافر ہے جو اپنی ڈیوٹی پوری کر رہا ہے، اور اس کو اپنی ڈیوٹی کے عوض یہ سزا دی جا رہی ہے کہ وہ آج جیلوں میں ہیں، شہید کیے گئے ہیں۔ لیکن جو کشمیر کی لیڈرشپ اس وقت، جس کا بنیادی مقصد جموں کشمیر کے عوام کے ساتھ 1947-48 میں کیا گیا، دنیا نے اس کی گارنٹی دی، اقوام متحدہ کی قراردادوں کے مطابق کشمیریوں کا مسئلہ حل کیا جائے گا۔ ہندوستان کے پہلے وزیر اعظم پنڈت جواہر لال نہرو سری نگر لال چوک میں آ کے کشمیریوں سے یہ وعدہ کر کے گئے کہ ان کو حق خود ارادہ دیا جائے گا۔ بنیادی طور پہ اس بات کی طرف توجہ ہم سب کو دینی ہوگی۔ ہیومن رائٹس کے حوالے سے جو باتیں ہیں وہ اپنی جگہ پہ ضرور اہم ہیں، لیکن یاسین ملک صاحب کی بات ہمیں زیادہ زور دے کے کرنی چاہیے، شبیر احمد شاہ کی بات کرنی چاہیے، مسرت عالم بٹ کی بات کرنی چاہیے، آسیہ اندرابی صاحبہ کی بات، اسی طرح ہزاروں لوگ جو اس وقت ہندوستان کے جیلوں میں قید ہیں۔ ہمیں یہ بات ضرور یاد رکھنی چاہیے، ہمیں ہر محاذ پہ کام کرنا ہے، لیکن بنیادی جو مسئلہ ہمارا ہے وہ ہمارا مسئلہ مستقبل کا ہے، جس کی وجہ سے آج تک صرف پچھلے 30 سال میں 1 لاکھ سے زائد لوگوں کو شہید کیا گیا، یہ رپورٹ ہے۔ 47 میں 4 لاکھ سے زیادہ لوگوں کو شہید کیا گیا۔ اگر آپ نے اس ریجن میں امن قائم کرنا ہے، محبتیں بانٹنی ہے، تو مسئلہ کشمیر کو آپ کو حل کرنا پڑے گا، پھر ہی یہاں پہ ایک تحفظ اور ایک خوشحال زندگی بسر اس ریجن میں ہو سکتی ہے۔ میری درخواست ارباب اختیار پاکستان کے ذمہ داران سے ہے، ہم اپنی اپنی ڈیوٹیاں پوری کرنے کی کوشش کر رہے ہیں، لیکن اختیارات ہمارے ہاتھ میں نہیں ہیں۔ اختیارات کی ذمہ داری جن لوگوں نے لی ہے، ان کو اس پہ زور دے کے کام کرنا چاہیے، اپنے تمام تر اختلافات کو بلا کے اس کی طرف آنا پڑے گا۔ پاکستان اس فریق کا مسئلے کا فریق بھی ہے، وکیل بھی ہے، اور ہماری تمام تر کوششیں اور کاوشیں ایک حد تک ہیں، اس کے علاوہ اسٹیٹ نے کام کرنا ہے، جس اسٹیٹ نے اس مسئلے کے حوالے سے اپنی ذمہ داریاں پوری کی ہیں۔ وما علینا الا البلاغ۔
Thank you, Sagar Sahab. Legal Forum for Kashmir and Stoke White. We are the law firm. We are only working on the advocacy, rest. We respect the political forums. We have always considered ourselves behind every political forum, not only the political forum, but our organization and other organization believes we are in a state of war. We have every means, every rights to wage war, violent means or the political means. So we would be working at the back for the advocacy of armed struggle as well, for the advocacy of the political solution of this matter. Now I would request, we have 3 more guests. I would request, we have a very short time. We will conclude this press conference sharp at 5. So we have 3 more speakers, experts, and I would request Ms. Mishal Malik. Ms. Mishal Malik is wife of incarcerated leader, chief Mr. Yasir Malik, and she also heads cultural forum on Kashmir. Ms. Mishal.
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. I'm really honored and grateful that I'm sitting with such a respectable panel over here. Tall Hurriyat leaders, human rights activist Mr. Nasir, who has co-authored a report with between Legal Forum and Stock White, and they have collected around 2,000 testimonies of Kashmiri victims from all walks of life, be it children, women, people from the media, a common man on the road, elderly. And this is something which was much needed, I think, when we compare it with the Palestinians, as I mentioned in the previous event of yours, when you launched the first report, that arbitrary detentions and forensic evidences, collecting photographic evidences, visuals, and how one of the very famous Palestinian lawfare expert, he visited us in Pakistan, and he was like, for us, we had no weapons. The only weapons that Palestinians had to expose the Israeli settlements over there was the camera. And through the camera was a gun, and the focusing, they would focus, and when they would click, that would be the bullet. And then they would expose that to the world, what the Israelis were doing there. So whatever you're doing right now, along with your team, hats off to you, because Palestine is still a place which is accessible to the world when you compare it to Kashmir, because maybe Kashmir is called heaven on earth, and you can only enter heaven once you die. And the people who are fighting for the right to self-determination on this holy land, I won't call them humans, I would call them angels, because they have extraordinary qualities which are not human, because we've not seen any examples such as this in history. Like, you know, I'm a small student of history, that how a nation has been combating for the past 75 years against the worst form of human rights violations, brutalities, unarmed and defenselessly, and riding and you know, standing up for the right to resistance. So these are things which are God-gifted, and this nation is divinely gifted with that energy, but at the same time to record all those atrocities, because the devil of this era is definitely, it's not Hitler, it is the Indian state. And the wolf has actually come out of its curtain. I wouldn't say that the Congress was an angel, but through the RSS we've seen the real face of the Indian state and how they are changing the demography. And because Khurram Pervez, who is the eyes and the movie or the vision, he's one of those icons that we have who became a mirror of all the atrocities of the Kashmiri people to the world. How he showcased it to the world, and how Gregory Stanton said when he read the report, The Structure of Violence, he said this is genocide, which is the highest crime in the world. And collecting data when the courts are under the Indian control, police stations are under Indian control, the defense line of the Kashmir freedom movement are the journalists over there. And I have many dear friends in Kashmir, and when I went there for the first time, I've met most of the icons over there. I was blessed to meet those legendary figures, those Hurriyat leaders, those human rights activists, and the way they have this this romanticism of holding a camera, of doing reporting in bullets outside our window, and I would be peeping out. I would be looking out at protests in Mysuma Lal Chowk. I'd be like, God, man, they're just capturing all those violations and reporting everything. They're so fearless, and then they get arrested, they get disappeared. And I would recommend all of you, the people sitting in the audience, most of you are intellectual who are interested in investigative journalism, and I would also request the Pakistani journalists that please, we don't want a general approach on Kashmir. We want research-based work, expose the Indian atrocities. And then a very important point, because Nasir is also a lawyer, because most of the detention laws, Y Khurram and other important journalists and Kashmiri Hurriyat leaders have been arrested is because of those draconian laws like Armed Forces Special Powers Act, Tada, Pota, and all these acts, these draconian laws, they're all colonial laws, which became invalid after the partition. They're invalid in Britain, yet those sedition laws, those articles, those draconian laws are being imposed on the Kashmiri activists, on the Kashmiri leaders, on the Kashmiri human rights defenders, Kashmiri media people, and these are invalid laws. So this is a very strong case. If you take it forward internationally, I've done a bit of working on it. I can share some of the material with you. I don't want everything to be exposed through the media, where you can help us. And and one more thing I would like to say, because when we speak about human rights violations and then the topic of RSS comes in, so we've seen the rage, the wave of Hindutva, and how they're completely eliminating all of us, and how fast, as Mushahid Saab mentioned quite beautifully, in a very encapsulated manner, in a summarized manner, what India is doing. He gave the statistics also of how many millions of Indians are getting domiciles and getting voter rights. But they're doing it at a very fast pace. But you will be amazed at one alarming fact of history, that Hindutva is a philosophy which came into existence because after 350 years of the Mughal era, which the RSS exposes as Muslim invaders. And they say, the RSS philosophy says that they came to eliminate Hinduism. However, in reality, if you go through the facts and figures, that during those 350 years of rule of the Muslims on the subcontinent, in Hindustan, when they left, 82% of the people were Hindus. There was no change in the demography. And then came the British. And when the GDP, during the colonial rule, you'll be shocked, which they always, because that is the excuse they lay for, eliminating all the Muslim populations in the world. So this is very important, that we need to look at the facts that the GDP during the Mughal era, I know it's out of context, but it's also in context. It was 23% during the Mughal era. And when they left and the British came, it was 0.2%. So we can expose India to any extent when it changes the demography, these invalid laws, and then coming to the top resistance leadership also, including my husband, him being a Kashmiri and I being a Pakistani citizen married to a Kashmiri. We are an aggrieved party. We are willing, me and my daughter, she was here, I don't know, maybe she's gone out in the swings, but we are willing to give our testimony along with other people who are sitting here, Waleed Saab and others. I'm willing to go wherever you want, whatever proofs I have, whatever injustice we have gone through because of the Indian forces and the Indian laws, and how they've also put my name in the NIA as an agent. I mean, for them, every Kashmiri is an agent without any proofs. So these are things which we need to challenge, and I can be arrested. If I have to go to meet my husband, I'll be arrested. So what's the point? So we need a safe passage. We need to get our Kashmiri leaders, political prisoners, including the human rights defenders, released, and we need to take it internationally under universal declaration, be it International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, be it creating a commission of inquiry or criminal tribunals, the way Mr. Stanton made for, in the case of Yugoslavia and others, and Rwanda. We desperately need that, and now I'm hearing about Ukraine that they're trying to form those as well, those criminal tribunals. So why not for Kashmiris when we have an authentic report such as this, which is based on facts and figures. This is our evidence. This is, you call it forensic, whatever you want to call it. Visuals, photographic evidences, testimonies, all encapsulated in this, which cannot be challenged. So we need to go, even if we take one case internationally, I think that will bring a definite jolt to Indian state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mishal. Inshallah, the next move will be a practical and pragmatic level. On 3 or 4 cases, I cannot disclose them, but we are after it. We have lodged a strong lawfare against India. What India did on 5th of August, it was based on law, and the counter was lawfare. But we are organization, we're not a state. But yes, definitely after this would be a flagship, inshallah. Among those cases, Yasin would be there, inshallah. We hope for the best, and very soon, inshallah. And now we have two very learned, experienced, 4 decades of experience guests. One among is Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani Saab. Wani Saab is heading UN desk from Kashmir. He's also living in exile, and he has 4 decades of experience working on human rights in Geneva. He knows every, technical aspects. I would request Altaf Hussain Wani Saab.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Na lamba hokar bhi view program karna. Thank you, Nasir Saab, for providing this opportunity. And I must commend the work of Snow White, also the Legal Forum for Kashmir, and the other partners in producing this wonderful report. They've already produced a report in January 2020, and this is second in the series. And this report has a huge value when it comes to international human rights systems, when you fight it legally and internationally at any case. Previously, we have received such reports from the Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society, as one of the reports of which Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society produced in 2012, that was alleged perpetrators. And that had 133 cases documented that from a small officer to the rank of
कश्मीर लॉयर्स फोरम बरतानिया के हमरा न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस हुर्रियत रहनुमा भी मौजूद अपने ख्यालात का इजहार कर रहे हैं। अब से कुछ देर कबल हुर्रियत रहनुमा मिशाल मलिक ने भी इजहार ख्याल किया। अब अल्ताफ हुसैन वानी अपने ख्यालात का इजहार कर रहे हैं। बहुत शुक्रिया, आप साथ रहे।